So good day everyone. Today we shall be looking at another topic under biology in integrated science. And today we shall look at or discuss diseases. When we talk about diseases are divided mainly into two. We have the first group that we refer to as a communicable diseases, while the second group are referred to as non-communicable diseases. When we talk about communicable diseases, these are diseases that are capable of being transmitted. That is, they could be carried from one individual to the other, from one organism to the other, from one person to another when the situation is suitable. That is, when the situation that will allow them to move are available. And these are usually done through some agents. That is, some agents help in the in the transmission, in the carrying of there's a microorganism that will cause the disease. So examples of communicable diseases include measles, smallpox, whooping cough, tuberculosis, HIV, that is AIDS. We also have what we describe as cerebrospinal meningitis. So many examples. Now, let's look at transmission of diseases. That is how diseases are being transmitted, how they are being carried from one place to the other, how they are being moved from one place to the other. Let's look at this one. One thing we need to understand under this one, that is while looking at the transmission of diseases, are what we refer to as agents. When we talk about agents, we have those we refer to as viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and helminths. When we say helminths, helminths are worms. Helminths are worms. When we talk about these ones, we talk about when we talk about agents. Agents are those ones that move the causative, or maybe you refer to them as causative agents. That is, they are the ones that actually cause these diseases. That is, when you say that, yes, like we had a COVID-19 in 2020. So the agent of COVID-19 disease was a virus. So we have agents like this that are either virus, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, or worms. Most of the times, these agents, that is those ones that cause diseases, they are actually, microscopic. That is, they are actually very small. Now, when you talk about aside agents, we also have means. When we say means what will help, or the condition under which those microorganisms or those agents could be carried from one individual to the other. So we have the first one, which we refer to as airborne transmission. When we say airborne transmission, it occurs when infectious agents are carried by dust or they are suspended in the air. That is, it is only in the air that the agents, that is those organisms that cause the diseases, can be transmitted. That is, those organisms are suspended in the air, and so it is in the air that these organisms can move. And examples of such diseases are measles, tuberculosis. That's why most times when someone is suffering from tuberculosis, they ask the person to close. If the person must go to the public, the person must close the mouth, like using face mask or mouth mask, and also closes the nose, because when the person opens mouth or coughs out, this agent goes, that is the causative agent, goes into the air, and it may cause the disease in another person if the person inhales. Then we also have what we call respiratory transmission. When we say respiratory transmission, in this case, we're talking about droplets. That is, we have disease-causing organisms in the mouth, we have in the nose, we have in the throat, we have in the respiratory tree, that is in the respiratory system. And these ones, they are spread by coming into direct contact. That is, when you come into direct contact with these droplets, that is the droplets that are from infected person. Like for example, oftentimes maybe some people when they sneeze, they just sneeze like this. When they sneeze, those things that they sneeze out or cough out, there are certain droplets that come out of the person's nose or out of the person's mouth. Then sometimes some people will try to they try to clean. They will say they are cleaning their throats. They clean their throat and spit out thick mucus saliva. All these ones are what we describe as droplets. These droplets, we have disease causing organisms there. So a situation where this is sneeze out, or somebody come in contact with this either by touching the saliva or knowingly with unwashed hand, now touch the food or whatever the person will eat, or put the hand in his mouth, it can cause diseases like chickenpox and influenza, though we have a host of other examples. Then we also have transmission taking place through food and water. When we say food and water, that is diseases that can be contacted, that is diseases that you can get through food, that is the agent is in the food that you eat. So most times when our foods are contaminated, that is when the food an individual eats has the presence of these agents, the presence of agents that cause the disease or diseases, we call them causative agents. Or even if it is water, if this organism or this agent is present in water, whenever somebody eats contaminated food, another individual that is not infected may become infected. Or if it is water, and that is why most times those disease, for example cholera as an example, you see most times when a particular area, when cholera is discovered in a particular area, you discover that it continues to move and move and move and move, spreading because it's among people, because it is contacted through food and it is contacted also through water. Then another one is animal or insects. We have some diseases that be contacted through or from animals or insects. That is, these ones act as what we refer to as vectors. That is, they are the ones that will harbor the organism or the microorganism that will cause the disease. So this type of disease or diseases are referred to as vector-borne diseases. There are many microbes that are threatening public health. That is, that there are many microorganisms that are threatening. When you say threatening, that they normally cause diseases a lot, and they are being carried by animals or insects, and they transfer this one to humans. These ones we refer to as some type of diseases are zoonotic diseases. When we say zoonotic diseases, that is diseases that infect animals but can also be contacted by human beings from animals, like rabies, for example. If a dog is having rabies, when that dog bites a human being, that particular individual is likely to contact rabies as a disease. Then we also have another means of transmission of diseases, another means of transmission of communicable diseases, that is sexually transmitted diseases, that are referred to as STD, that is diseases that are contacted through sex. Those ones are referred to as STD, like you have HIV, you have AIDS, you have viral hepatitis. All these ones are contacted through sexual contact with an infected person. Then you have another one that we call through healthcare transmission. When we say healthcare transmission, those ones that are in health, they contact diseases from individuals, that is in the process of treating people, that is in the process of their work. Sometimes they are or they become infected. Now, what are the ways by which we can control communicable diseases? The general way by which we can control communicable diseases are what we are trying to highlight here. The first one I highlighted here is diagnosis. Diagnosis means that finding out and confirming that this is the particular disease. That is one. That is one. Then two, notification. One has to notify them. You have to notify, get to the hospital, let them know that this is what is wrong with this person. It's very important before it begins to spread from one individual to the other. By that, it could be controlled. Then isolation. Once somebody is infected with diseases, that is with communicable diseases, it is better for the person to be isolated. Diseases like measles, diseases like chickenpox, it is better to keep the person somewhere to prevent, the person from moving from one place to the other, so as to avoid spreading the disease. Now, another control is to avoid contact. That is, when we say avoid contact, that is, the person that is infected should avoid contact with people that are not infected. That is, you avoid contact either, like for example, if it's somebody that has maybe a cough. Let's say that one as an example. If the person is carrying food to another person, and funny enough, in the process of carrying the food, the person sneezed. When it sneezes, definitely there are certain microorganisms that will be dropped in the person's food. That is one. Even if not that, in the process of preparing, or handling foods, handling drinks, some microorganisms can be attached or can stick to the to the plate, to the side of the plate of the person. So we have to disallow carriers from handling items like foods, handling items like drinks. When you know somebody is infected, it's not that the person is being eaten, but it's just to prevent diseases from being from being spread from one individual to the other, and to control such type of a disease. Then another one is disinfection. It is important for us to disinfect. That is, you carry out disinfection, you clean the environment, microorganisms with disinfectant. You clean the environment from microorganisms with disinfectant. This disinfectant can be used to clean or to kill the microorganisms that are present around. Then investigation of cases. Once a case has been reported, maybe in a particular place or in an area, it is good to investigate the cases. Like for example, when it is reported that somebody has malaria, it is important to investigate that it is truly is it truly malaria. Once they discover that it's truly malaria, the control, they should switch into action and see how this could be controlled before it could spread to other people. And we also have adequate treatment of the infected. When someone is infected with communicable disease, it is important for this particular person to be treated. For the person to be treated, once the person is treated, adequately treated, there won't be any reason for the microorganism to move to another, to another individual. And so the continuous movement of the disease, or the spread of disease, is thereby controlled. Now let's look at non-communicable diseases. When we say non-communicable diseases, these are, diseases or health conditions that are not infectious. That is, they cannot spread from one individual to the other, from one person to the other, and they last for a very long time. In an individual, they normally last for a very long time. Most times, the causes of this type of diseases are physiological. That is, the physiological well-being, the cells, the cells, the tissues, how they are working at a particular time. Sometimes they could be genetic. That is, it could be hereditary. That is, the person inherited it. And sometimes it could be environmental factors. That is, where the person is living, or sometimes where the person is working. Like for example, we have people that are working in environments that are too dusty. That's maybe the cause of, maybe it's a factory or a company where they are whatever they are producing, dust is an end product. In such a situation, that's any individual working in that particular place is likely to have a disease that will affect the person's lungs, or bronchi. Now, there are some risk factors. Some risk factors in non-communicable disease or diseases include unhealthy diet, such as when someone is not feeding well, when someone is having a diet that is not healthy, that is lack of physical activity. When someone is not carrying out any physical activity, you have some people, when they wake up in the house, they are still in the house. Some of them from their bedroom to the sitting room to the kitchen, and from the kitchen back to the sitting room back to the bedroom. They are not carrying out any physical activity. When they are not carrying out physical activity, it's very likely for this particular individual to have a particular disease. Another one is smoking or secondhand smoke. When we say smoking is somebody that is actually smoking maybe Indian hemp, drug, or what have you. Then when we say secondhand smoke is you are not smoking, but you are living with somebody that is smoking. As the person is smoking, you too, you are indirectly smoking. We call that passive smokers, because what the person blow out, emit out, is even more dangerous than what the person inhales. So somebody, if this one continues for a long time, a person like this may be suffering from the disease. Then you have excessive use of alcohol. That's another example. If somebody likes alcohol, that uses alcohol too much, there's tendency for the person to have a disease. But all these diseases are non-communicable. For example, if someone is suffering from a disease that is as a result of unhealthy diet, even if you are living within the same environment, if you are living within the same place, if you are feeding well, if the other individual is feeding well, that particular person will not have the same disease, because it is not contagious, because it is not infectious, because it cannot be transferred from one individual to the other. The main types of non-communicable diseases, we have different types of non-communicable diseases. The main type of non-communicable diseases that we have, that I've given examples here. One, cardiovascular disease. When we say cardiovascular disease, this is a disease that is related with the heart. When is a disease that is, you have so many different types of diseases that are related with the heart. So cardiovascular disease, that's one example. The other one is cancer. Cancer is another non-communicable disease. Then another one is chronic respiratory disease. You have another one that we refer to as chronic respiratory disease. When somebody is having chronic respiratory disease, it may be as a result of genetic, it may be congenital, that is when the person is being formed while the person was in the mother's womb. It may be as a result of the person's lifestyle. It doesn't mean that another person will be infected. Then another disease is diabetes. Most times, it is funny when people say that, diabetes, you are eating too much sugar. No, it is not too much sugar that causes diabetes. Diabetes is actually being caused when a particular organ in the body is unable to function very well, and this organ is insulin. So if as a result of one thing or the other, that particular part of the body could not perform its function very well, if that particular organ is faulty, the function of that particular organ is to convert, when you eat now, your food, like when you eat carbohydrate food, it changes, it gives you energy. The extra in your body will now convert to particular organ, particular compound that we refer to as glycogen. So when you didn't eat, when you need to work, it is this particular organ in your body, insulin, that will convert that particular glycogen back to glucose. So if this organ is not working well, then that means that yes, we'll not be able to perform this function. Then when we talk about cardiovascular diseases, like I have put it and mentioned earlier, we have examples like heart attack, stroke, coronary artery diseases. Then when you talk about cancer, steps in prevention, that is in preventing cancer: avoid tobacco, avoid alcohol, getting immunized against cancer causing infections. Common cancers are, you have liver, you have stomach, you have prostate in men, you have breast in both, you have lung, and you also have cervical cancer. Now, another example of a non-communicable disease is chronic respiratory diseases. They are ailments that affect the airways. They are ailments that affect that part of the respiratory system where air passes through to the lungs. Then some of the diseases have a genetic basis. That is, some of them, like I said, will be hereditary. They have genetic basis. You have others that are caused, that is, of some of these non-communicable diseases that are caused as a result of lifestyle. So lifestyle such as smoking, environmental condition when they are exposed to poor quality of air, poor ventilation. So in most cases, it is better if you cannot prevent a disease that is as a result of genetic base, you can prevent the one that is as a result of smoking. Now let's look at this one. Like I said the other time, diabetes occurs when the body cannot produce enough insulin. Insulin, like I said, is a hormone that regulates sugar, blood sugar, or when the body cannot effectively use the insulin it produces. That is, you have, in childhood, you have what we call type 1 and you have what we call type 2 in adults, which is as a result of poor diet or as a result of obesity. You have some other non-communicable diseases that you have something like Alzheimer, you have arthritis, you have attention hyperactive disorder, ADHD, you have autism spectrum disorder. I think you have heard of autism before. It is not hereditary. You have heard of arthritis before. It is not hereditary. Some people may say that it is hereditary, but it is not hereditary. So thank you for listening.